Apple's streaming service had a huge win after finishing the second season of Severance last week, when the show became the most streamed series on Apple TV Plus, surpassing Ted Lasso. Severance hit the Nielsen streaming report for 5 consecutive weeks, clocking in at 681 million minutes viewed. Apple CEO Tim Cook quickly gave the show the green light for a third season last Friday morning. On the heels of this news, it may be surprising or not to hear that Apple loses $1 billion a year on the streaming service and only has 45 million subscribers. But based on what the tech giant has said in the past, this may not matter. What say we about the financial calamity tied to such creative ascendancy?
Yeah, I mean, Severance Season 3 seems like the biggest no-brainer in history that you would renew that. And then we also know that Apple confirmed Ted Lasso Season 4 last week, and that makes total sense because if you're going to grow a streaming service, that's what you need. Apple has put out a lot of really good one-shot series, which are good. I'm thinking about Lessons in Chemistry. I'm thinking about the one that Elizabeth Olsen did with Jesse Plemons. I forget what it's called, but it was like a murder kind of show. It was really good as well. Like there's a lot of those like limited series on Apple TV Plus that are really good. Presumed Innocent is another good one with Jake Gyllenhaal, but those don't keep the subscribers. And while they're good, you have the problem with a limited series is that it is limited. It only lasts for 5 or 6 episodes and then it goes by the wayside and there's no reason to keep subscribing. So to bring in a show like Severance, like Ted Lasso, that you're saying these are popular shows, people love them, and now we're going to keep making more seasons of them, that's how you begin to gain a little bit of traction. And I will say, just kind of looking at it from the vantage point of the $1 billion, Apple as a company itself, you have to remember the perspective here. Apple made last year in 2024 $391 billion as a company. Their bread and butter is not streaming. And so I saw some people putting this out there as like a dunk on Apple, like, they're losing $1 billion. It's like, you have to understand, like, bottom line wise, this is a long game investment for Apple. You will lose money on a streaming service at the beginning. Netflix lost money for years before it finally became profitable, and it only really started becoming profitable like it is today because they started cracking down on password sharing and things like that. It was still struggling big time, just more recently than you think as a company, even though it's been around as the head of basically the streaming world for the last, however long we've been streaming things on our TV. And so the idea that you're just going to start a streaming service and it's going to take off and make you just hand over fist money, you got to remember Apple TV Plus, still one of the lowest cost to sign up of the streaming services as well, while Netflix is getting close to, what is it now, $13, $14 a month or something like that at this point? I mean, it's probably even more than that.
All the bells and whistles, it's closer to $20 these days.
Yeah, and wow. Apple TV Plus has still got a pretty low barrier to entry compared to that. So I think you have to keep that in mind. Now, I do think this means a couple things. I think it means that we will see more of the Severance and Ted Lasso treatment. We'll see more shows getting second and third seasons on Apple TV Plus, and we will see announcements of shows that we know will continue. And then I think it also means that low price hike that I just mentioned will probably go up a little bit over the next couple years to try to close that gap. But yeah, the $1 billion thing, it again, because it's from Apple, it doesn't surprise me on one end, but it also doesn't alarm me in any way whatsoever when I'm looking at the newness of Apple TV Plus, the really great content that they're making. And again, you just have to remember a lot of people have a lot of streaming services. Getting them to sign up for a new one is really hard now because they have Netflix and Max and Prime Video and all of these streaming services. It's hard to get them to do the next one, to be like, come over to Apple. But I think especially with Severance, I mean, you guys all saw it too, like what Severance did and got the conversation going around Severance. Those are the kind of wins that are going to really push that streaming service to the next level.
I think we've talked about before that Apple has basically said, this is like an advertising opportunity for us. This is what we're treating our streaming service as. That's why we let Martin Scorsese make a 3.5-hour movie of Killers of the Flower Moon. They're just like, oh, just throw some money. It's chump change, that $1 billion. Like, whatever. We're good. Which is wild to think about, but not when you think about the scale of Apple. And so I I think it's interesting that their subscriber number is so low, but I saw a lot of post Severance reactions being like, okay, thanks, see ya, Apple, I'll sign back up when season 3 is on. Like, it's really interesting, the psychology of specifically the Apple streaming service versus everybody else, because it's so new, like you said, Jay. And so, yeah, I've started watching more and more things on it now that I'm there. And of course, we only signed up for it when we got a new device in the house, and it was like, here's your 3 months free, and that's how they sucked us in, and damn it, it worked. But like, even their films, like The Gorge that Scott Derrickson did, is it amazing? No. Is it a fun movie to watch? Yeah. And is it quality enough for me to have wanted to without knowing what it was about, really? Sure. So I think they're fine. And I think they're fine with being in the zeitgeist in the way that they are in a different way than with their products. They're in the zeitgeist with their entertainment.
Do you think when Tim Cook is having a performance review with the executive leadership, he prepares lunch menus to pass out?
Yeah. He might run away real fast, too.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I think you guys have been pretty comprehensive in the pros and cons, and I just come away like, people smarter than me say you got to spend money to make money, and that's kind of the consensus that I've seen around this. They're taking the time and using the resources to build a really stellar catalog, and that's going to eventually be what gets people to stay. So Haley, to your point, I'm right there with you. It's started off with one show here or there, but more and more it's an app that I frequent more and more, and has increased in value. And I'm not one of those people. I don't think I'm going to say, kick him to the curb. I want to support him. And, at $10 a month, I'm willing to do that at this point. Now, if down the road, if we have to tighten the leash, there may be another conversation to have, because there's a lot of streaming services to keep up with these days. And, this wallet only goes so far. So.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people have Netflix and Hulu because they were like early, and now we're just used to them. But when we add one, we start being like, well, it's kind of like first one in, last one, or first one in, first one out sort of thing, where you're like, oh, well, I just added this one to watch the show and I'll lose it. But not thinking, I mean, honestly, I probably watch more on Apple than I watch on Netflix, but I still keep both. But I feel like Netflix, you almost have to have it because there's every once in a while something really, some really great and important show that I want to watch. But it's becoming more and more rare with Netflix, I feel like.
There's a weird psychology around it. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I was an
totally.
early adopter of this, so I'm going. Netflix is like the biggest one because we had Netflix. All of us had it when you were getting DVDs in the mail, which was, the best thing ever back in the day, like 15 years ago. And we can't get rid of it because I'm like, well, I watched this one thing on it over and over again. Like, it's the place where I rewatch Gilmore Girls, like whatever the stupid thing is that you rewatch, which that's mine for Netflix. But then like now when I go to watch a new show, if I'm in the mood to watch something new, I'm like, you know what? I haven't watched anything on Max for a while. What's on Max? Or I haven't paid any attention to Peacock. I'm going to go see what's on Peacock. And I feel like that's happening, which is weird. That's a weird way to have to make television.
You just reminded me. I still have Peacock. I still have not canceled it. I bought it. I bought it back. I wanted to watch the Packers and the Eagles season opener. It was in Brazil. It was an international game. I could only watch it on Peacock. And so I signed up for Peacock and I didn't cancel it. And that was in
the streaming
September.
Home of Wicked, Jay. Come on.
I haven't watched a single. I've been sending NBC $10 or whatever every month since September. And I haven't watched shit on that thing.
I watched Long Bright River on Peacock and it was pretty good. But that was why I went to it, because I was like, I haven't watched anything on Peacock in a while. And I was like, oh yeah, Long Bright River. I've been seeing that advertised. I'll watch that.
You just watched a clip from Multiverse News. If you liked it, go to our channel. We got a whole episode that it comes from. So go check that out and hit the like and subscribe. And we got lots of clips you'll enjoy, but also full hour-long episodes of Multiverse News with lots of things that don't even make it to clips. So check us out.
You stay clippy.